All right, so roughly 3.5 hours later, and we have a dough that is increased in volume quite a bit. It's risen a lot. You see lots of bubbles in the side, and if you look at it, you'll notice that it kind of peels away from the container a little bit. It's kind of domed. And so that means that it's ready to divide. The dough has gained quite a bit of strength since the mixing on account of the folds we did, but also the acidity contributed by the sourdough. So what I'm going to do here is divide and shape. So the first step will be to divide this mass of dough, which is scheduled to make 4 loaves, into 4 dough pieces. And then the second step, once that's all been divided, is to go ahead and shape them into their final shape. So I'm going to start out by just putting some flour down because this stuff is sticky, and the flour will keep the dough from getting too stuck to the board. It's best not to use too much because then you can start accidentally incorporating flour when you shape, and that can lead to pockets, air bubbles that make the final loaf have a like big air bubbles right underneath the crust that makes it hard to slice and hard to hold toppings when you try to make a sandwich with it. So, sorry, the lighting here is terrible. Be back with it. I just emptied the dough mass out onto the counter, and I'm getting my scale ready. Still back there. Oh, this backlighting is not good. But anyways, my dough mass is right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my bench knife to cut off what I think is about roughly 2 pounds, 850 grams, 1/4 of the dough mass. So let's see how we did. Looks like I might have let bulk fermentation go a little bit too long. It's feeling pretty well risen and gassy. That's okay though. So let's see. Put it on the scale. 682. Okay, so I do need this section right here. All right, 835 plus or minus 15 grams. You know, it's fine to be a little bit off. It's also easy to do because I scale the formula to be exact, but there's always some dough that gets lost. Like when I'm slapping and folding, you know, there's some that will stick to the table, you know, like some that sticks to my hand that I wash off. So you're not going to get exactly the yield posted. So I prefer to make each loaf short by a little bit as opposed to having one loaf at the end that has substantially less dough than the rest. Okay, let's see. So now we're at 630 there, so that means I need an extra 200. And I'm just gently laying these pieces of dough down on the flour. When I had to cut out multiple pieces to make the loaf, I'll just stack them on top of each other. Okay, so that's good. So that one's good. We'll move on to the next one. My screw off for a moment. Okay. Use a little flour for my hands to just keep things from sticking too badly. Okay, let's see. 713. And of course, there's no need to measure the last piece because that's all the dough there is left. So I'm just gonna, again, put out a little flour and set the dough piece on top of it, like so. All right. So that's essentially just rounding that dough off into a tight little round and then letting it rest for 20 minutes. Again, I'm going to skip that and go straight to shaping. All right. So here are my oblong linen proofing baskets. And I like to dust them with a flour. And the rice flour is really absorbent, which helps prevent the dough from sticking to the baskets. If you don't have these baskets, as I suspect many of you don't, you could either give me a shout to borrow some because I have a ton. And I don't use all of them at a time, or you can just line a large bowl with a towel and then just lay it in there. Again, I like to taste the dough. It has a pretty sour flavor now. It tastes really good. But by comparing the taste of the dough between now and next time I make it, I can start to build a more complete sensory picture of what the loaf looks like at each stage during the baking process. Well, right now I'm just cleaning off my bench knife because it has some sticky flour, sticky dough on it, and I want it to be easier to handle for the next section. All right. One thing I forgot to do, but should have, to take the temperature of the dough. Right now, I would imagine that it's stabilized at the kind of 78 that we got last time. Stuck my thermometer in it about 40 minutes ago. Okay, so shaping. This is one of the fun steps. This is one of the ones that takes some practice and experience and is going to be really messy and not what you were hoping for the first time. That's just how it goes. I've probably baked around 3,000 loaves in my life, so I have a pretty quick and practiced hand with the shaping. But of course, it doesn't happen overnight, so don't sweat it. The baskets will help it maintain some sort of shape, even if it's not exactly what you're hoping for. All right, so let me try to get a little more light. I'm going to be talking at you without you being able to see my face because I want the bench top to be visible. So the first step is to put a slight dusting of flour just to keep the loaf from sticking. It's kind of difficult to calibrate the right amount. These dough pieces feel pretty sticky, but just kind of like lightly shake out a little bit of flour so that there's a thin, even coating on your work surface. Okay, so the flour is down. So I'm gonna use my bench knife to pick up my dough piece. And what you'll notice is that for the dough piece like this one, where I cut one, it was not enough, so I had to cut another piece and put on top. That kind of creates a little seam here because these multiple dough pieces are stitched together. So I'm going to want that seam to end up inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the dough off, again using quick motions and trying not to hold on to the dough for longer than I need to because that risks sticking. And then gently set it over the flour. See it sticking to the bench knife a little, that's all right. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this shaping here, again, I apologize for the lighting, it's just where I am, not much I can do about it, is I'm going to use my bench knife to help me reach under and pick up the dough, especially when it gets sticky, and then I'm going to use the other hand to kind of guide the pieces of the dough. So I'm going to start by folding it like a package, like left, right. So I'm going to go left. This is a lot like a stretch and fold. So there's one. And then we're going to go with the other side, like that. See a little sticking, so I'm going to go ahead and pick it up and put it back. And now, with a quick motion, I'm going to roll it up. So starting from the top, I'm going to stretch a bit, fold to not quite halfway, doing my best not to incorporate flour. A little sticky. And then I'm going to quickly just continue that motion, just roll a little bit more and generate tension, kind of build a seam. And then once I have it kind of rolled into a loose log, I'm going to make sure that my hands have some flour and that I'm not going to stick. And then I'm going to try to bunch it up and really get a nice tight seam. Once I have this loose sort of dough log, I'm going to put it inside one of my prepared baskets. Cool. All right, so we're going to do it again for the next loaf. Get some flour down. Pick up the loaf. Seam up in front of me. This time I'm going to do just a gentle pat out of the air. I'm not trying to press out all the S, but just give it a very, very gentle run over. And then stretch, stretch. You can see there's now this seam running lengthwise. And then again, I'm going to kind of sew the loaf up. Moving down a little bit more dough, tighten it, and once it's kind of tight, do a very gentle roll to give it a little more length and tighten the seam even more, and place it in the basket. Ta-da! Okay, next piece of dough. Same process. Pick up the dough. All right, lumpy bits up facing me. Create my first seam. In. Got a seam now. Make the seam perpendicular to me, so the seam is running this way, right? Away from me, towards me on that axis. And now I'm going to go ahead and roll it up. All right. Yep, good. We're not sticking a ton. Okay, now my hands are getting sticky, so I'm going to do a little flour. And then I'm going to give it that final little elongation, roll, and tuck. See those really gentle, quick, practiced rolls. All right. So that's 3 loaves. I'm going to do one more, this time in a round shape, so you can see what that looks like. I like the oblong ones better because you can get more volume on a similar amount of dough. I still haven't figured out exactly why, but I like them better. Hopefully I can find a round piece of dough. All right, so I've got this dry linen cloth. Find a good round bowl. All right, round bowl, cloth in bowl. And then we will take some of that rice flour, wheat flour mix, put a little bit inside the bowl that I put the towel in. Trying to make sure it gets under those folds, make sure we have enough. And then this time, I'm going to do a slightly different motion for shaping. So the start out's the same, get a little flour to keep things from sticking too bad. Put the dough on the counter. And then this time, I'm going to think about bringing sides in like a seam, but instead of like a book, 1, 2, it's going to be lots of smaller motions. So 1, and this new vertex, right? And just think about kind of bringing everything into a central point, right? So now it looks kind of a little bit tighter. So once I've kind of brought things into a central point, I'm going to kind of fold it in half, really roll it over itself, and then using one hand cupped to kind of keep bringing more of the surface of the dough underneath, and the scraper in the other hand to do the same thing. So I'm kind of doing a slight rotation and using these two opposed to each other to kind of create a pincer. And once it looks nice and taut and I can see the bubbles on the surface, there's this kind of sheen on it, I'm going to go ahead and place it in the bowl. And I'll try to lift it up so you can see, but what you'll notice is that you can see that seam that we created with that motion. All right, so that's it for shaping. It's a little bit warm in this room, but nothing crazy. It's probably around 75. Last week when I baked, it was around 68. So I'm going to have to go for a little bit shorter and have that oven preheated. But check back in about an hour, hour and a half, and we'll be loading the loaves. All right, bye.